Get ready, America.
Be the winner you were meant to be. You want to start your own business? Do it. Do it today. You say you're a leader? Lead. Take control of your future. Change your attitude. Change your environment. You can be a winner, baby. Be a winner, baby.
Know that.
Good morning, America, and welcome to the Vincent Watkins Show. Let's get started this morning. We're going to talk about education. Education is considered as the great equalizer. The thought, of course, behind this statement is that if you receive a college degree, that no matter where you start out in your life, you can have a better life. As a child, I can remember my parents saying to me, get an education because they can't take that away from you. And we understand that the challenge of living and being successful in life does have a great deal to do with training and skill. But the question that I'm really probing this morning is, how valuable is a college education? Now, according to the latest research, there is some truth to the fact that education can be a game changer. The pay gap between college graduates and everyone else reached a high last year, according to the new data, which is based on an analysis of the Labor Department. Americans with four-year college degrees made 98% more an hour on the average in 2013 than people without a degree. Now, that's up from 89% 5 years earlier, 85% a decade earlier, 64% in the early 1980s. So what we see is that there is value, certainly, to having a college degree. There's no question about it. 98% more an hour if you have a college degree. But here's the kicker. The caveat is you must graduate, and therein lies the challenge. The value of a college education depends on whether or not students actually graduate. Now, when we look at the statistics in the United States of America and we look at colleges, we understand that across the board, only 33% of the people who go to college actually graduate in 4 years. If you, by chance, attend an HBCU, a historically black college and university, such as myself, a proud graduate of Southern University, I am, the number or the percent drops down to under 30%. That is to say that if you go to an HBCU, there is a greater than 70% chance that you will not graduate in 4 years. Now, if you stay for 6 years, there's a 30% chance. There's a 30% chance that you'll graduate if you stay for 6 years. So the question that I'm asking you, and I would like to hear from our listeners this morning, is, do you believe a college education is valuable today? And how valuable do you think that college degree is? Not just the education, I should be clear, but obtaining a college degree. Now, we understand also that it costs somewhere around $100,000 to $120,000 to go to college and graduate. So is that $120,000 well invested? Is it going to pay off in the long run? Is it going to produce the results and the income that you expect? One more thing. According to some other statistics and research that we've come across, of 3,500 colleges and universities in the United States, only 150 of them are considered to produce a return on the investment. That's less than 10%. Only 150 out of 3,500 colleges are actually credited with producing a return on the investment. So once again, is it worth you going to college, paying the enormous tuition fees based upon what you're going to get from your return? Okay, so the number for you to call in is 404-361-1571. I would love to hear some of your thoughts if you have any questions and comments. I know that we also have Dr. Al Barone from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who's joining us, who's going to also sit in and share some information with us. And we're going to see what Dr. Barone has to say about the value and the worth of college today. So first, Dr. Barone, how are you this morning?
I'm doing fine, Vincent. How are you this morning?
I'm doing excellent. So you're in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, correct?
I'm in Baton Rouge. It's a beautiful morning. It's beginning to feel like fall.
Well, let me ask you, Dr. Brown, give us a little background. You are very involved in education. You're very involved in Southern University. Both of us share that in common as our alma mater. Give us a little background first on yourself.
Vincent, I am Southern born, Southern bred, and when I die, it'll be another Southern night dead. I grew up on Southern's campus, went all the way from first grade and graduated college there and got the master's degree as well. And I worked in the career services office and was director of career services. So I know firsthand what it means to get that degree and graduate and be employable once you graduate. And that's that critical piece of what we're talking about. And HBCUs are really going through a transition. Because there are so many other factors that the economy is going through, that some of those things that we used to just count on as basic for a college degree has gone down to technical colleges and 2-year degrees and associates, and you can make just as much money, or if not more money, than a college degree. And so it is the pressure that's on a particular student and the choices that they make is what's really driving education. I know here in Louisiana there's a very strong push for 2-year degrees because the jobs that are coming into our state don't necessarily require a 4-year degree, but they require 2 years after high school. So that means there's going to be some transitions that must be made. So, where we go next. That's critical.
Dr. Brown, let me ask you, what do you think? Let's go back, because we're going to come back forward to HBCUs in particular, as well as technical colleges. And you and I have been talking about colleges and universities for quite some time now. Both of us have shared our frustrations with what's happening. When you listen to the fact that, first of all, only 33% of those people who attend college are graduating, what's your reaction to that? That's regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, just across the board. Well, basically 3 out of 10.
The basic fundamental fact is that once individuals are coming to the university, they're not prepared for college work. And that goes from kindergarten all the way up to high school. We've got to get our kids ready for what their future is going to be. And until we get into the high schools, the middle schools, and getting them ready and not just pushing them forward, our graduation rate can't be that high because they're not being prepared underneath us. We're the last step before that real critical education. So before that, and that's what we don't have a lot of, emphasis on right now, is getting kids prepared to come to college, because the high school dropout rate is high. A lot of those dropout rates are because those students who drop out are the students who will be coming to HBCUs.
Well, Dr. Brown, let me ask you this. When we look at the challenges that we experience, I mean, college is pretty costly. When I was in school, it was certainly not $100,000. It was not near $100,000. And I have 2 degrees, and I don't think the combined costs of both of them were $100,000. The return on an investment, if a person is going to spend $120,000 or more dollars to go to college, are they really going to get that money back?
They will get their money back if they choose the right discipline to go in. I think that's the other thing too. Is you're not getting an education. You're getting an education to have a career. Now, you went to school and you are a lawyer. You know exactly what that's going to do. That investment has turned out very, very well. But if you choose a major and you look at it and there's not a real demand for that particular career or that degree, you're setting yourself up for no return on investment. You have to choose and look at what is needed. Now, one thing that college does do, it prepares you to learn. And so, you're going to change jobs 6, 7 times. So that means that you have a fundamental base that you can learn new things, and you're going to have to.
Right.
So, yes, I believe college helps you do that, but you then, too, have to have that inner ability to say, hey, I got to get out and get it.
Well, let me ask you, Tony, is Tony on the line?
Hold on.
All right. Okay, is Tony on the line?
Yes, I am.
Tony, so tell me, Tony, you have a number of contemporaries that you interact with that are, Tony, how old are you, Tony? 25?
25.
Okay, so what is your take, or what is the reaction of your friends when it comes to college? Those who've graduated from college and both those who've not, do they feel like the $100,000, 4 or 5 or 6 years they spent in college, was it a good investment of their time? Was the money well invested?
It's actually very interesting because the people that have gone to college feel that it was not a good investment, and those that have not gone feel as though they would have some type of opportunity, or there would be some magic door open for them if they had gone. In both cases, many people are uncomfortable or unhappy in their positioning. Those who have been to college feel like they would be in the exact same place if they had not gone, because they are typically working jobs that do not utilize their degree or require any formal education. And those that have not gone feel as though if they'd have gone, perhaps they'd have that opportunity.
You know, Dr. Barone, one of the things that we see here is that the attitude and the way we've been conditioned to think of college and to consider the value of college, I think, has been a little inaccurate over the years. Many of us, I believe, have been made to feel that going to college will provide us an opportunity. Well, more than an opportunity. It's almost as if we feel like once you graduate, you just step out there and there are going to be 10, 15 different employers waiting to hire you. And most of us know differently, particularly African Americans. What we have found is that research shows that African Americans, even after obtaining a degree, are 54% of them are underemployed, which means that they essentially are working in a job that they could have gotten if they hadn't gone to college to begin with, which kind of goes to Tony's point that, you know, even with a college degree, there are individuals who are having challenges finding a job commensurate with their degree. 54% are making an investment of $100,000 or more just to find out that they are now able to get a job that they could have gotten with a high school degree. What do you think about that?
Right now, because that's a reality. That's a fact. And it's something that has got to change because we are making a tremendous investment in this country toward education. But as we look at the statistics across the board, we're not being treated fairly. And there's going to be, at some point, this brain drain, it's got to come to bear. And so individuals who are prepared and who have made that sacrifice should be able to reach their economic potential with that. But that is one of those corporate entities and a society thing that we've been dealing with since we got here to the United States.
Tony, let me ask you, when we look at the fact that, let's look at America for a second. Bill Gates did not graduate from college. Steve Jobs, who I speak about all the time, I'm a big fan of Steve Jobs and the things that he's done for the world in terms of innovations. He didn't graduate. Henry Ford didn't graduate from high school. And, of course, we know that Ford is a premier automotive company in the world. John D. Rockefeller didn't graduate from high school or college. And, of course, he was at one time one of the wealthiest men, or one of the richest, if not the richest man in the world, and certainly the founder of Standard Oil. When we look at the history of wealth in this country, this great country of America, many of the people that are behind that wealth did not graduate from college, and some of them did not graduate from high school. How would you reconcile the experience or the investment of going to college when clearly it's not necessary to go to college to be great?
Well, I think that there is an unfortunate, I believe that there is an unfortunate belief that college is equated with greatness, kind of how we equate money to success. Because what is undeniable about those people is that whether they had gone to college or not, they were destined to be great. They had made a decision a long time ago before they decided to go to college or not to go to college to be great. So what I am finding is that the decision to go to college only impacts the names after your letters, has very little bearing on whether you will be great or not. That decision is something that comes within whether you hold a college degree or not.
That's interesting. Dr. Barone, Tony brings up an interesting point and something that you and I also talk about. I know that you have an organization called the Encouragers that is dedicated to working with and mentoring to young people to help them to identify the objectives and goals and different success and career paths that they may pursue. Of course, my language, if you will, and philosophy is always about impact. We need to be focused on the impact that we can make and the impact that we can have on others. College does not necessarily work towards that or do a great deal of pushing you towards making an impact or being great. If, as Tony was saying, if you don't start out with at least some idea or an understanding of where you can go. What are your thoughts, Dr. Barone, as what relates to what must happen for us to make college, in order for college to be a positive and a worthwhile investment? What are some of the things you feel must happen in the homes of families and in the community itself?
Well, I guess my favorite word to use with young people is you've got to be passionate about whatever you're going to do. I think that's what Tony alluded to about they were destined for greatness. If you have a passion for something, you're going to be good at it, and you're going to pursue it no matter whether you have a degree or not have a degree. But there are more unemployed people without degrees than people with degrees. So you still have to prepare yourself, but it is the passion that you bring to whatever you want to do. And young people, no matter what the situation is, whether I'm with a job or without a job, I'm going to be passionate in pursuing whatever I'm going to do. And the other key point to all of those people that you named, they were entrepreneurs. They wanted their own business. They wanted to run that. And sometimes you got to learn a business before you can actually be the head of the business. And, you know, it just makes that a lot easier. But we've got to continue to push education because that is so lacking in our community. Whatever that education doesn't necessarily have to be a 4-year degree, but it has to be towards something. Because you said the numbers beforehand. There's a tremendous difference in those, but we've got to be educated, but we've got to be passionate about why we're going toward the educational path we're on.
Well, you know, see, something that really troubles and bothers me is that a lot of young people are first-generation students in college. They make a tremendous sacrifice to go to college. Their parents and grandparents, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, all come together to help them to prepare to pay tuition. They make this payment. They'll get student loans, they'll get grants, and they will be all in, if you will. They'll put everything they have on the table to make that happen. They get to college. They're not prepared, perhaps, but when they get to college, they're somewhat challenged by the experience. These universities and colleges will take all of their financial aid, take all of their loan money, and then leave them 4 years later, leave them with nothing but memories. They don't have a degree. They have debt.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
that never goes away.
That does not go away. They can't file bankruptcy. Never. They can't do anything but pay that debt.
Never.
So,
and that can stop you from buying a home. That can stop you from getting a car. All of those things.
Isn't there a responsibility, Dr. Barone, at some point, or shouldn't there be a responsibility? And I think specifically about HBCUs because I remember that was one of the things that led me to Southern, is the compassion, the concern, and the commitment that they had to, that institution had to me as an individual, being an African-American male. I don't know that that's there anymore. I don't know that I feel that that exists in many universities, and I'm not talking about Southern by any means, but I'm talking about all across the board. I'm not certain that there's that type of interest and commitment that exists when we're basically taking, putting people in debt and co-opting their dream.
Well, one of those key components now is that education is a business. And they are going through shrinking dollars from every angle as well. Federal funds are being cut, state funds are being cut, and the only place that they can get funds are from tuition. And you're getting tuition, but you're cutting people and services. And so there's got to be, the compassion is gone.
Right.
They don't have anybody left to be compassionate.
Tony, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
When you look at, and you graduated from Agnes Scott, across town, of course, from Spelman. The experience that you had at Agnes Scott was obviously very different. When you look at some of the challenges that young people have today and some of the challenges that they will experience in trying to pay for college, because Agnes Scott was expensive, and so is Spelman. We're talking about, again, $100,000 plus to get an education. Do you find that with young people, this is a concern that they have, just the issue of debt?
Oh, absolutely. Several people that I'm matriculated with had breaks in their enrollment because it was very important for them to graduate from Agnes Scott. So they had to take a couple of years off, go back to work. With some people, it's taking them, almost a decade to get a 4-year degree, not because of intellect or because of performance in school, but because they didn't have the money and they didn't want to go to the state school. Having that Agnes Scott degree was extremely important to them.
Now
they were willing to make that sacrifice.
And let me also throw this in here. There is a list that they do annually. U.S. Report does it. Forbes magazine, they do one, and this is a list that essentially ranks the colleges by performance.
Wow.
What's interesting is they rank 100 colleges and universities. Now, in the 100 colleges that they rank, what is really interesting about this is what's really interesting about this whole scenario is there is not one African American or historically black college in the 100. I'm not saying that there's only one. I'm saying there's not a single solitary college. So what they've done is they've created another list for HBCUs. And in the HBCUs, what they do is they create what they call a HBCU college list that they have the top HBCUs. Now, is there something wrong about that? Isn't there something wrong with the picture when we say that it's almost like saying we can't have, since HBCUs are not going to make it into the top 100, and let me just go ahead and say, in fact, HBCUs don't make it into the top 200 colleges in the nation. So we're going to create our own list. Does that make any points? Is it important? Is it valuable when we have a separate list for historically black colleges and universities, or should they be evaluated on the list of 3,500 colleges and they just fall wherever they fall?
Well, I certainly think that it is. I think that it cheapens the black college experience, if you will, and it cheapens that degree because, in reality, when people are out into the real world, they do not evaluate them separately. They do not evaluate black college alums and stack them up against white college alums and create separate lists for them. The opportunities presented are not designated by such, so it is unfair, and then it creates a false sense of pride and accomplishment in those graduates of the HBCUs because, hey, I go to one of the best schools. well, one of the best black schools. It's kind of like those people at Morehouse that say that they go to the black Harvard because they have similar colors. Only in color are you similar, because the results that you produce are tremendously different.
Now, Dr. Barone, are you familiar with that? Now, I don't know if they get that. You get that all the way down in Southern. At Morehouse, they consider it
that, and it is a prideful thing that we want to be the best at whatever we do. And historically, we want, if we graduate from our institutions, when we get into the workplace, we give that opportunity to do your very best, and then folks will know exactly where you come from. That has never changed. But now it is, because beforehand we didn't have choices. Mm-hmm. And today students have choices, and that's the other factor that HBCUs are struggling for, because the better students have better choices to go to those better schools. They're being recruited more. And so it's a catch-22, because the better students are going where the money is. A good academic high school kid is recruited just like a five-star football player is today. And so the competition is so great. And so unless there is some type of family tie or too close to the area, the student is going to go where the money is. It's always economics now. And so that's what's happening to HBCUs. They're still graduating more in some particular areas than other institutions are. But again, a student who has an opportunity to get a $120,000 scholarship to go to a university, and you only get a $20,000 scholarship, it's not going to happen. The kid's going to go where the $120,000 scholarship is going to be.
Right. And I guess, the point is, and the question is there something that we as African Americans, or that African Americans owe to HBCU institutions? Is there a sacrifice that they should be willing to make to support an HBCU, or should they just do what's best for their personal growth and development?
Well, I think it's on the individual to their own growth and development. I think it's incumbent upon the HBCU to show the fact that we can make a difference in your life. We may not have all the bells and whistles, but we are going to do something that nobody else can do. But the critical part to that is we've got to be able to do that. I think we all have great experiences. I know you do, I do as well, on the benefits of going to an HBCU, the experiences, and the reason why we're doing what we do is because someone showed us we need to be politically active. We need to be out in our community and helping people. I think that's something unique to HBCUs in that aspect. But that is dying on the vine.
Well, I think that one of the things that I want to make sure that we get in before we close out today, and that is, it is very important that you, if possible, that you get a college degree. Getting a college education is not necessarily the same thing. It's very clear. The statistics and the information and the facts are very clear on it. If you graduate, you will make 98% more an hour than people who do not graduate. Those facts are very clear. The problem that we have is also very clear. We have 33% of the people who are graduating. So listen, this is it for this segment of the Vincent Watkins Show. I invite all of you to listen to us again, and we look to hear from you and talk to you next week. Thank you very much, Al, Tony.
Thank you. God bless you.
You've been listening to The Vincent Watkins Show. The Vincent Watkins Show is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Watkins Group. For more information, you may contact 770-719-1606. The Vincent Watkins Show is a V2 production.
Be the winner you were meant to be. You want to start your own business? Do it. Do it today. You say you're a leader? Lead. Take control of your future. Change your attitude. Change your environment. You can be a winner, baby. Be a winner, baby.
Know that.